Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club, and it's time once again for a postcard of the week. This week, I want to show you a postcard. It's 67 years old. It shows a disaster in 1955 in the summer. It was actually May 25. I'm speaking of a horrible, really awful tornado that struck Udall, Kansas. That's south and a little bit east of Wichita. It was just awful. I was 12 years old when this happened, and I'm 79 now, so that's 67 years ago. But this postcard just gives you you can see the image, you can see the total destruction. It was taken probably a couple of days after the event itself because they have been able to clear the streets where they can get a car in there. It was just really, really awful. Happened at night, 10:30 or so at night, and anybody that really wants to can go back to Google Udall tornado and read all of the details and so forth. There were at least 77 people who lost their lives in a great span of age range, from children and babies on up to older people in their 80s and even older. But it was a bad, bad scene. Like I said, I was 12 years old at the time. I want to kind of personalize this, but I can remember that my dad was working at Joyland and mother was busy there at home. But we had a neighbor, I believe, who was going to drive down and look it all over. It was a Sunday afternoon. And somebody said, "Can Hal go with us?" And mother said yes. And so all of a sudden, I was in the back seat of their car and they were driving. I wish I could remember exactly who it was, but it doesn't matter. When we got there, we could see all of this destruction in front of us, and where there used to be houses, there was nothing. It was just lowered, and the trees all twisted or blown away. Awful. But what I do remember as a postcard collector is there were at least a couple of cars that were kind of at the edge of the road, and people were sitting in them, and they had their doors open. But what they were doing, they were selling postcards of this. Somebody had been the entrepreneurial spirit. They had gone down there, taken pictures, and they made these pictures into real photo postcards in 1955. You can see from this one, it's numbered number 41, and then they made up a title. It said, "Looking toward a northwest section of tornado wrecked Udall." Well, over the years, well, what I should say also about seeing those postcards for sale, they were selling them on the hoods of their car. They had one or two racks that we call them spinner racks. They would often be on as you check out at a motel or check out of a restaurant, they used to have little spinners there where they would have postcards up and around the edges, and you turn the rack and see additional images to look over and see if there's something you'd like to buy. But they were selling the cards, I remember, for a quarter a piece. And like I said, I didn't buy any of the cards. My dad wasn't driving, so I couldn't say, "Oh, stop, let me go buy some cards." That wasn't, I just remember them selling them there. And that just goes back to show how, cards are distributed, how they happen. Somebody, you had to go there that day or that week or several weeks maybe, where the people were selling them, and buy them at the source. But what makes this one unusual today is that it's postally used. And we're going to look at the back here. You can see a nice postal cancellation from Udall, Kansas, dated July 6, 1955. The tornado itself was on the night of May 25, so we're talking 6 or 7 weeks later that this one was sent. You can be amused that it cost 2 cents to mail a postcard then, and 67 years later, it costs 40 cents. But looking at what the people wrote on the card, just a little bit, it says, Will and I weren't hurt, neither was the family, but Raymond, wife, and baby were uh, hurt and were in the hospital 2.5 days. They are okay now. We have a lot to be thankful that for us that we were survivors. No deaths in our family. We lost a lot of dear friends. And but that kind of personalizes. It was mailed to somebody in Wichita. Obviously, no phone connections for quite a while, probably. And so they were letting this lady know in Wichita that they were survivors of this horrible tragedy, something that happens this time of the year oftentimes in the spring. And we're going to start hearing the tornado sirens when they, kind of clean out the bird nest, and we'll be able to hear them, and they'll start. That's something that we not look forward to, but we hear every spring as the siren system is warning system is developed and double checked to warn people of impending storm, and to be careful, be watching your television and all of that. But this is a postcard that's certainly a tragedy. It's a card that's a documentary. It's what we have. It's what they have left to show how bad it was that day, all of those years ago. And since then, we've had awful tornadoes in Greensburg, Kansas, and Andover, Kansas, and nearby Joplin, Missouri. So I'm not sure how this tornado compares with them, but a lot of wonderful people lost their lives, and this particular one was documented nicely on postcards. I'm not so sure that those other ones that I mentioned had this kind of a postcard documentation to them, but I don't think they did. But anyway, happy springtime, and here we are with this destruction, this horrible reminder of what can happen with Mother Nature. We thank you for coming today. Please like us on Facebook and on YouTube, please. And if you would, click the little box that says subscribe so you can watch for, be notified of other these postcard of the weeks that we try to do every week. But we'll see you next week, and thanks again. Bye-bye.